Welcome back to Board Now, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast hosted by me, the final girl. And you guys, today, we are talking about one of the most divisive episodes and probably the entire series. I'm talking like a lot of the fandom does not like this episode. It's I, Robot, You, Jane. They talk about like the tech being dated, the dangers of like online dating. A lot of fans feel like Malik isn't scary and in the end looks more like a Power Ranger Zord. But the thing that always kind of trips me up when people are criticizing this episode is that they say that like it doesn't have any real emotional weight. So today I'm here to defend this episode and hopefully maybe change your mind and realize that it actually is a really good one. And I actually feel like this episode is really dark. It does have a lot of emotional weight to it. It deals with loneliness. It touches on teen suicide. And it really shows Willow slipping through the cracks, not just in life, but also in her friendships, because her friends aren't really paying attention to her and how lonely she is, and she's very susceptible to what's about to happen to her. To me, it's like one of the most underappreciated episodes, and we get the introduction of Jenny Calendar, who to me is so fucking iconic, and I wish that she would have been on the series a lot longer. And so I'm incredibly excited to deep dive and get into this episode and share my thoughts with you guys. It had been a hot minute since I watched it, so I rewatched it for this podcast episode, and I don't know, I still think it really holds up today despite the like dated tech. So let's jump into it and deep dive I, Robot, You, Jane.
In every generation there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
Willow meets a mysterious guy online who seems perfect, mostly because he's a century-old demon hiding in a floppy disk. Now, Malik is recruiting the lonely tech nerds of Sunnydale High to create a body for him so he can go on a first date. And of course, take over the world. And it's up to Buffy to stop him. Right away, this is the first time this series gives us like a lore setup. Usually, the episodes up until now have been opening with something with Giles and Buffy or something funny around Buffy. But this episode opens up with a lore, almost kind of like a preview of what's to come throughout the series, like the bones of what certain episodes are and certain episodes become that we love. I feel like are seen here in this moment with Malek. Like think about those scenes with the monks in season 5 and how they're like conjuring dawn into the key and they're running from glory and they're doing all of that. I feel like the bones of it is here in this episode, in this opening. And what's happening is these monks are cursing Malik, this giant green demon who makes people love him and worship him, and then he kills them. They are binding him to this book and they put it in a bin. And what I love is the transition in this. It's very small, but I love how like Buffy plays on that dichotomy of where it's like a very serious moment and then it like ties into the flip side of like the funniness of it. So the monks, they put the book in this box in this crate and they close it. And I love the shot that immediately opens and it's Buffy opening it. And she's like, oh, it's a book. It's like very serious. And then it like rolls right into the camp. We're instantly introduced to Jenny Calendar. And I love that she immediately is pushing back on Giles. Instead of like retreating to him, she's, obviously like a newer teacher at the school. She's a little bit younger, clearly. And he seems a little bit more established. She's like bucking against him, and I absolutely love that with her. I think that her character brings like a much needed freshness to the series. It brings that balance that we need because it can't just be Giles as the stuffy superior teacher, the superior trainer, watcher. We need that fun balance of that female who is going to kind of check him a little bit and make him grow and evolve in a way that Buffy can't. And I also love that like they eventually become like love interests. We do get our very first taste of datedness in this episode when the character Fritz is talking about being jacked in on the computer and the web. If you're not jacked in, then you're not a part of the system. It was like a very early 90s trope and trend to do around hackers because people didn't really understand the internet at the time. I feel like people still don't really understand the internet, truthfully. But it's like it was so scary, and it was like they had this in all of the shows, they had it in all sorts of movies that, like, you had to be, like, jacked into the system, man, but when he said it in this episode,
If you're not jacked in, you're not alive.
all I could think about was the PBS show Ghost Rider, what I was obsessed with as a kid, and that scene with Julia Stiles in the episode where she's like,
Can you jam with the console cowboys in cyberspace? What? Ever read Neuromancer? Huh? Ever experienced the new wave? Next wave? Dream wave? Or cyberpunk? I didn't think so.
it's like that's all I thought about and think about anytime I see Fritz on screen. But it is cool to see like the early tech, even though like I very much was around when this was happening. I was like 12 years old when these episodes happened. So I was very much there for like tech in its like infancy, but like it's very interesting to see it because we forget, like, how far we have come. I mean, hello, I'm literally filming on my phone right now, and I'm gonna upload this and edit it, and it's just wild to think how far we came, and it wasn't really that long ago. It was only, like, 1996, 1997. I mean, this premiered in 1997, but this was filmed in 1996, so it wasn't really that long ago, and just to see how far we've come, it's kinda cool. It's kinda cool to see that data technology, and I think that's why I don't mind it as much. Mrs. Calendar's class is totally disrupting Giles's world in his library. They are doing a class on scanning and archiving into the computers, and so they are scanning everything and disrupting everything. His books are everywhere, and he can't stand computers, and it's this pushback between him and Jenny Calendar. But then Willow decides to stay after hours, and she scans the Moloch book into the computer and accidentally unleashes him into the interwebs. And like I have been talking about it all season long on my podcast, but I really am obsessed with the music this first season. Don't get me wrong, like, I love the Christoph Beck score. I think that it's very emotionally charged, when it comes to Buffy and Angel. Like, there are some cinematic pieces that I really do love in the rest of the season. But this Walter Murphy score in this first season, I just feel like he just really needs a shout out because this score is so unique and it's so different. I love the different tones that play constantly in the scenes. It feels very horror and like horror adjacent. And it's like I said, it's unique. Like I'm obsessed with it. I actually think it might be my favorite score in the entire series. I think that first season score just it's iconic, it's untouchable, it's like nothing compares to it. And here in this scene when Willow is scanning Malik into the computer and like waking him up from his slumber, the music that plays, I love it. It's I can't describe it. If you're a Buffy fan, so you know that music is just very indescribable. Right away, we move into the plot. Malik becomes Malcolm, and he starts chatting with Willow in like this instant messaging thing. I think that they're emailing back and forth. At this time, I think the only like chat messaging. I'm really gonna date myself, guys. If this was filmed in 1996, the only chat I think at the time was this was before AOL. I think AOL was, like, maybe 97, maybe 96, I don't know, but it was ICQ, and so I think they were just emailing back and forth, and so, I think they met in a chat room is what the story is there, or they assume it is. They don't really talk about how they've met, they just started talking, and she's completely smitten. Like Willow is just all ready because she was up all night talking to him, and he just gets her. And these types of people prey and pick on lonely people, and so Willow was just primed and ready for it. But Buffy like catches it right away. She is very cautious and hesitant, and like thinks with a clear head, and she wants to make sure that like Willow is really being like concerned because it's a person behind a computer. You don't really know who it is. And at that time there was a lot of panic about that, and I think because it was so new and so foreign of a thing that like, oh, you could talk to people in chat rooms and talk to people all around the world and stuff. And now I feel like we kind of take that for granted. I mean, I think I think now with the rise of social media and like TikTok and Instagram and stuff, we see people's faces and stuff, so you don't get catfished a whole lot anymore. But back then, that was a very real thing. You know, you didn't know who you were talking to. It was very dangerous. It was like playing like Russian roulette. I mean, listen, I was a 12-year-old in chat rooms telling guys that I was an 18-year-old college volleyball player. And then when they would ask to like meet up, I would instantly block them. You never know who you're talking to. They fully thought they were talking to an 18-year-old college girl and I was a child. But then I think about it, and maybe I was talking to another child who was pretending to be a college dude. But Buffy being cautious irritates Malcolm, and he starts doing a little recon on her, and he pulls up her file. And this is where we get one of the instances of Buffy's famous birthday being changed. We learn that her original birthday is October 24th, 1980, which for this timeline would have put her at 16 years old because originally this was supposed to premiere in 1996. And so, as we all know, her birthday was changed to January 19th, 1981 to kind of correlate along the lines of her first birthday actual episode. And that was in season 2. And that sets the timeline where she is turning 17 in that episode. But here we learn that like Buffy has a 2.8 GPA, which means she's like a B student. And surprisingly, she has only been absent 1 day. But with this information, he decides to put a hit out on her and has his little minion person, Fritz, start watching Buffy. One of the things that I go back and forth on with this series is Buffy and Xander's friendship. Like when Xander is being an asshole, like I just really cannot stand his character. But when he is good and he's like on, his character is so good. And this episode for me, particularly, I really like him in this episode. I love his and Buffy's friendship. They're funny, they're like connecting. I love that she kind of calls him out on his shit, like how he's not being the center of attention, but like Xander just like takes it. He takes it on the cuff. But then he also like opens up and expresses his fear, and it's kind of the same fears that Buffy is having. And I know the storyline is kind of rushed because it's a 42-minute episode, and this first season is whole very monster of the week. So they didn't have time to like fully like flesh this out over a span of a few episodes, which would have really worked really well for this storyline. But what it does really well is that it shows the loneliness that somebody can feel and how somebody or something can come in and take advantage of that. Like Willow never fully feels seen. Like even with Buffy and Xander, like sure, she's getting a little bit more confidence, but she still falls victim to that, to both of them, you know? With Xander, she's in love with Xander and he just doesn't even realize that she exists. And, you know, we know just based on conversations with Xander and Buffy that like Xander's aware of it. He knows that Willow is into her. And to me, I feel like he kind of plays into that and uses that to his advantage. And I think Willow kind of understands that. And I think that she recognizes that, but I think that her will to want to be with him and wanting him to know that she exists kind of outweighs that. And so that's a very lonely, depressive feeling to be into somebody who is just clearly not into you. And then not only are they not into you, they're into your best friend who is stunningly beautiful. Not saying Allison Hannigan isn't something beautiful or Willow isn't, because I think Willow is very, very, very beautiful. But you're already like a bullied kid, you know? Think about that. Before Buffy showed up, she was heavily bullied. And so for her looks and stuff, so then this blonde girl shows up and she's athletic and you know, she's pretty and she now is getting the object of the affection of the guy that I want to be with. Like think about that, you know? And like and she's not a bad person. She's a good person. She's my best friend. She's great and she wants nothing to do with him. So it's just she just feels not seen and not I completely relate to her character so much back then. That's why I loved her. That's why I loved this episode so much growing up because it really does show that like even in your friend circle, you kind of you have to pay attention to the people around you. You don't really know what's going on, and you really need to make sure that the people in your life are okay. And that's kind of the lesson that I've always taken from this episode. It's that not that Buffy and Xander don't care about Willow, not that they don't love her and want to save her and protect her, because that's all they want to do in this episode. It's love and care and protect. But it's that they weren't noticing enough or recognizing enough that she was sinking, that somebody could easily come in and snatch her in like 24 hours. It's not even just Willow that this is a really great example of. The character of Dave, even only in the small little interaction with him and Buffy, you kind of can tell like he's the similar way. When Buffy's pumping him for info in that scene, you just kind of can tell, like, he is also a part of that crowd. Like, he's probably the AV kids that, Willow was, like, hanging out with, and I think that it just shows that, like, people aren't paying attention to those types of kids. I was one of those kids. I was heavily bullied, first of all, but the people around me just kind of weren't paying attention. And I think that's why I just resonated so much with this episode. Of course, it's revealed that Dave is working for Malcolm slash Malik. And it's revealed that he's one of his minions as well, too. That's why they're constantly always typing at the computers because they're working constantly. They're building something for him. And again, Giles doubts that Buffy senses something is off. And for some reason, it takes this like push and shove mentality between the two of them for him to finally like cave and be like, okay, well, then this is what you have to do. And so he essentially tells Buffy that she needs to tail Dave, and so she does. And she finds out that he's going into this like chip factory. It's called CRD.
Calac's Research and Development. It's a computer research lab. Third largest employer in Sunnydale. Till it closed down last year. What, I can't have information sometimes?
It's just somewhat unprecedented.
And from there, the gang decides that something is wrong and they have to break into the building. Meanwhile, Willow is also starting to question everything. We get this really, I feel like, emotional scene with Willow and Malcolm where they're talking and they're connecting, and you can kind of just see for the first time she actually feels like somebody is paying attention to her. But it's when he reveals what he knows about Buffy and her past and her record that kind of shocks Willow and wakes her up. Then we get one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode. Giles and Jenny are arguing about technology, and Giles pretty much predicts everything that we're going through right now in 2025.
You think that knowledge should be kept in these carefully guarded repositories where only a handful of white guys can get at it?
Nonsense. I simply don't adhere to a knee-jerk assumption that because something is new, it's better.
This isn't a fad, Rupert. We are creating a new society here.
A society in which human interaction is all but obsolete, in which people can be completely manipulated by technology. Well, thank you, I'll pass.
But in the fight, Giles and Jenny uncover that Malik's book is blank. Now Giles is putting it together what has happened. And while that is happening, Buffy is being set up to be electrocuted in the showers in the locker room. But before that could happen, Dave steps in and saves her. He cannot do it. And this enrages Malcolm slash Malik, and he starts drafting a suicide note for Dave, and he has Fritz set it up like he kills himself. It's so sad. But what Buffy does so well is it always gives us a tension break. And I always laugh so hard when Buffy is in the library after she's just been like almost electrocuted and her hair is all big and frizzy. She's like talking all like serious and everything. And then she says,
Tell me the truth. How's my hair?
it's revealed that Malik is now in the interwebs and she has to find Willow to figure out how to stop this. But Buffy instead finds Dave's body. And meanwhile, Willow is deciding it's time to put space between her and Malcolm. But this isn't going to fly for him as he wants to meet her tonight. So he has Fritz kidnap Willow. Giles has to enlist Miss Calendar's help to get the spell back into the book and lock Malik into this dimension. And he is surprised to learn that she is not shocked at all. And she's in fact a techno pagan. And I love it. I love that she just doesn't question anything and just goes right for it. Malik reveals himself to Willow. And honestly, it's not that bad, guys. Okay. I mean, it is giving a little VR Troopers, but it's not horrible. It was the 90s. But if you could look past that, then you can see this scene for what it really is. Willow is in pain. She's not freaked that he is a monster. She's upset that he lied to her. She's hurt. She feels betrayed. Because, like, let's get real for a second. Like, this is Sunnydale. Buffy has fallen for a vampire. Xander has fallen for the praying mantis teacher. But, like, realistically, like, Buffy's in love with a vampire. And so, like, a demon maybe not off the table, so to speak, in Sunnydale, because we don't know. What if they are good? What if they do have good monsters, just like how Angel is a good vampire? So it's like more about the hurt for her and the deceit for her, though, that she felt like she just was lied to. She was vulnerable with somebody for the first time, and she felt like he understood her and he got her. And She just felt played. Giles and Jenny start their spell online. Willow stands up to Malik, and he gets bound to his physical body and loses his access to the internet. Buffy then outsmarts him. He gets electrocuted, and he is gone forever. And in the final moments of this episode, I love the conversation that Giles and Jenny are having. Their chemistry is so fucking amazing.
The smell.
Computers don't smell, Rupert.
I know. Smell is the most powerful trigger to the memory there is. A certain flower or a whiff of smoke can bring up experiences long forgotten. Books smell musty and rich. The knowledge gained from a computer is it has no texture, no context. It's there and then it's gone. If it's to last, then the getting of knowledge should be tangible. It should be smelly.
But like how Giles describes his love for books and how he can like smell them, and it's that feeling that you just can't get with technology. I think a lot of people who are book people can really relate. It's like the best description of why reading a book is so much better. That's me. I'm a book person, so I love to read. But I don't like to read on like a Kindle or like a screen. I like to hold the book. I like to feel the history. I like to smell it. I get immersed into the story if I'm actually immersed into the physicality of it. I just feel like you can't really get that on a Kindle. And I love that that's kind of what he's saying and what he's calling out. And what I love even more about it too is that I don't know if you guys have listened to the Audible Slayers series, that one season Slayerverse story where it's like a multiverse story where like Cordelia is from the multiverse and she's the Slayer. I'm obsessed with it. I absolutely love it. And I'm sad that we're not getting a season 2 of that because I feel like that could be a really great season 2. I feel like that could be its high end. It's a multiverse in the Buffy realm. But I love that in that Giles owns a bookstore with Olivia. And I just feel like it very much, resonates with who Giles is, and I feel like that's the bones of that are in this episode. You really see that, and that's a part of, shout out to Christopher Golden and Amber Benson, who Christopher Golden's gonna be in our documentary, the Buffy documentary, the Can't Escape the Moonlight. I'm so excited. Um, but shout out to them for really just kind of knowing the history and the enrichment of this series, and I think that's why anytime that, like, I say that, like, anytime anybody writes anything about Buffy and stuff like that, like, I just always feel like Christopher Golden has to be included because he just really truly does get these characters. He's also the one who has written more of these characters than anyone else other than the creator. It's him and the creator who have written just as much about the lore. So I love it. I'm a big fan of Christopher Golden. But in the final shot of this episode, like, can we talk about how Buffy, Xander, and Willow kind of foreshadow the fuck out of their futures?
Yeah, it's life on the Hellmouth.
Let's face it, none of us are ever gonna have a happy, normal relationship.
We're doomed.
Yeah.
To me, this episode is not a perfect episode by any means, but it almost kind of is because it perfectly encapsulates that time period. If you are going to look at it through a 2025 lens, sure, there are some things that are very dated about it. But if you look at it as like it was 1997 and it was in the early forms of technology, and really here is the story about one of your friends like being lonely and getting lost into the crowd and somebody came in and preyed on them and took advantage of that. It kind of just tells you that you just need to pay attention to the people around you a little bit more. And I loved it. To me, it's not one of my favorite episodes, but it in season 1, it's for sure one of my favorite episodes. I would say it's one of the most underappreciated episodes in the entire series for sure. And I really hope that the fandom finds a new love for it. I think in recent times, a lot of fandoms have been re-examining their franchises. This happens a lot with Scream, where like people obsess over like what is the best Scream, and every couple of years, like they cling on to which one they think is better and which one they love. And for many, many years, Scream 3 has been like lambasted as like the worst Scream. And I think in the most recent years, people have found a new love for it, and there are a lot of defenders of it. Or A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a lot of people for years hated A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and in the past 10 years, the amount of love that series has gotten, also a lot of it has to do with, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street by Roman Clemente and Tyler, um, Mark Patton's story, and if you haven't watched that, I totally recommend watching it. It's, like, one of the best documentaries I think I've ever seen in my entire life. But, there's been a lot of, like, resurgence of love for that, but I think the fandom should really just go back and watch this episode with fresh eyes, because to me, it really is like a little gem. So where does I, Robot You, Jane stand for you guys? And I just wanna say thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week about the next episode. Make sure that you are subscribing. Make sure that you like, make sure that you comment. That really helps me out too. Everywhere you get your podcasts is where we stream. So we're on Spotify, Apple, um, everywhere. Anywhere you get a podcast, we're there. The video is also on YouTube, and as always, the clips will be on my TikTok. And until next week, this is Bored Now, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast.